Welcome. I'm Harvinder Bogle. I've been investing in Bitcoin since 2015 and making video updates since 2022. And I hope my sound and everything's all good. It looks like it. And so, yeah, I make video updates about Bitcoin and what I think is going to happen and just general market related stuff. And I go live every week. This is the time, 3 p.m. UK time. And yeah, the markets have tanked quite a bit over the last, well, just a couple of days really. And was it expected? Was it unexpected? Let's have a look. I'm going to share my screen, go over the charts, give my thoughts, and then yeah, we'll just have an open conversation. So let's start sharing the screen. Let's start getting into it. All right. So it was about a good 10% drop. I was just looking at this earlier, just over 10% just from a couple of days ago. And really, if you're investing in Bitcoin, does this look really bad? I would say I've been saying for a while, if we break these kind of levels here, then yeah, we're probably going to revisit these kind of levels. But if we do, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And if you actually watch my videos from probably about November time, December time, I've been calling for this crash. And I changed my mind briefly over here when things started to look more positive, but then they broke down. And so, yeah, I kind of been running on hope, hope more than anything. Like, I hope things are going to turn around. And the problem with this is that, eventually I will be right. Eventually things will turn around. But in the meantime, yeah, if you watch my videos, what I said is probably going to happen once this trend line broke. I said, look, we're going to break through, come back down, and then we're going to fall down again. Now that has happened, but not in the way I thought. What actually happened was it crashed, retested, came back down again, then it broke through this resistance line, and then it looked like it was going to pump, but then it just went the other way. And so, yeah, what I said did happen, but not in the exact same way. And this goes back to what I say about trading. Not even in trading, investing, price predictions. Because this is how the scale kind of works. The longer your time frame, the easier it is to make predictions. And I'll explain what I mean by that. If I zoom out in a Bitcoin chart, it's easy for me to say, yeah, Bitcoin is just going to go up in price, and I'd be right. But there's massive crashes in between. It goes from 60K to 16K, and it goes from 20K to 3K. But, I was right. The price keeps on going up. Where it gets harder is the longer your price prediction over the longer time period, the more accurate you'll be. So longer time period equals more accuracy. But it's the opposite for shorter time frames. Shorter time frames, the less accurate you're going to be. And that's why the truth is no one knows what's going to happen. Like even me, I do get it right sometimes. I get it wrong a lot as well. But that's the statistics of trading. A good trader will lose 7 out of 10 trades. But on those 3 trades that they're right, that's when they're going to win big. And so when it comes to, short-term price predictions, you can trade and you can make money, but most people will lose. I just recorded a separate video from my other channel called 99% of people shouldn't trade crypto or Bitcoin. And I do stand by that because most people will lose. And so going back to this, structurally speaking, this is still pretty good. Like it's not really, really bad. Let's go into a cleaner chart. Like this is the other day I drew this chart and I was kind of clutching at straws. I was thinking, look, what could potentially happen here? And so I zoomed out and I just redrew the trend lines over here. And this is where when you're trading, you can force patterns as well. So what I was trying to force here was some kind of channel. Although, you could argue I was right. This definitely was a channel, but it's broken the channel. And I did say that as well. This is really a bearish setup where price drops, has some kind of rising channel, and then it comes down again. And this is when no one knows for sure, right? Like I can confidently say, yeah, Bitcoin's going to go up at some point. And if I keep saying that every day, then I will be right at some point. But I might be right in 1 year's time, and that doesn't really help anyone. And so I always tell people to really think about why they're investing in Bitcoin. And it's good to look at worst case scenarios, and you've got to look at the rest of the market. Like, how's the rest of the market doing? What are the market conditions? It's important to understand these things, because the frustrating thing is everything else is doing pretty well, apart from crypto. And so if we go back into, if we look at US dollar, that's been tanking, and that's good. We want the dollar to fall because assets priced in the dollar will become more valuable as the US dollar becomes less valuable. Like if you look at stocks, they're pretty much at all-time high still. We had a bit of a scare a few days ago, and that's a good-looking chart. That is good. There's nothing really bad to say about that. But if you've got any charts you want me to look at while I'm live, just let me know, then I can have a look at them. This is the Dow Jones. Like, that's really good still. Right, the NASDAQ. These trend lines didn't really work, so I'm just going to redraw them a bit. This is still good. It would be good for it to stay above this line, and that would be a nice retest of this. The Russell is a really important one. I did draw this trend line yesterday. I was looking at it, and it's just about holding. I didn't really connect them properly. So yeah, that's still in play. And there is a decent correlation between the Russell, the US Russell 2000, and altcoins. So yeah, we want, UK still going strong. Gold has pulled back, but that's normal. After such a rip-roaring run, it was going to come back. It makes sense. And that's not to say it's the end of this run. I kind of hope it is, because then that liquidity can start coming back into things like crypto. Silver, my target was 99. It did smash through my target, and now it's back at my target. Like, this is where it's frustrating. The general economy is doing really well, but Bitcoin's not. And that's where, we've kind of been sport, right? Sport in the sense that everything else does okay, but Bitcoin does really well. So Bitcoin's the thing. And over time, I think Bitcoin still is the thing, but I do teach diversification. Have some stocks, have some bonds, have some gold, have some silver. But the tempting thing is, the way crypto moves like it moves, people, they want the big moves. They don't want 5%. They don't even want 10%. They want 20, 30, 50. Right, this has painted a couple of positive candles, if you like. This is the US money supply. So last time we looked at it, I think we were stuck in October. So they have printed money, and that's good. And I've always said this is the stimulus that we need. We need money printing. Once they start printing money, that's just going to go into the markets, and definitely, especially risk-on assets. And so that's what's frustrating. And this is what, it's good to look at charts, don't get me wrong, but you've got to look at other charts as well, not just Bitcoin, not just gold, not just stocks. And you've got to kind of zoom out and think, okay, how are these all connected? Because people, especially people with money, they do invest in different things. They don't just go all in on Bitcoin. They don't just go all in on stocks. And it's that portfolio balancing thing. Ray Dalio talks about it, where he talks about investing in non-correlated asset classes. So if one goes up, the other one might go down. The other one goes down, the other one might go up. And so, yeah, the economy in general is good, but it's just frustrating that Bitcoin isn't really playing along. So what I wanted to do in this video is I wanted to open up a fresher Bitcoin chart, and really just zoom out and be like, okay, what is, not even what's going on here. It's more of a case of how is everything correlated. Like if we have a look at the Bitcoin chart and we overlay USM2. Oh, that's not showing for some reason. Maybe I'm gonna have to play with this dial on the side here. Right, so money printing. People don't really understand liquidity, and you should, especially as an investor, because really just think of your own personal situation. If you have money and you want to invest, then you can only invest in so much. If you have 100 grand and you want to invest in, say, 4 different things equally, then you just split it up equally. But if you want to invest in more stuff, you've got to reallocate. You've got to sell some of your gold to buy some stocks or crypto, and it's just that reallocation of resources. And so, yeah, thanks for bearing with me. I just want to load up the correct chart. So let's have USM2. This is the money supply. And what's different here is, like in these previous runs, the money supply just kept on going up, ridiculously. And so with Bitcoin, the cycles kind of made sense because, the money supply was steady, the cycles followed the same pattern, and even over here. But this is the first time in Bitcoin's real history that it's gone through a period of money, of quantitative tightening, where they're extracting liquidity out of the system. We can see what happened here. Bitcoin crashed like everything else. And so as the money supply went down, Bitcoin went down. And then it kind of leveled off and Bitcoin was climbing steadily. And then they started to print more again and, Bitcoin has been climbing. But they haven't really been printing that much. And what I want to overlay next is stocks, S&P 500, to see, what has that done? And it's a similar kind of story, but the difference between obviously stocks and Bitcoin is that it's not as, stocks aren't as, I don't want to say volatile, but they're not as explosive. Like there might be, say, 10% drop in stocks and it's the end of the world, but really in Bitcoin, that's just like a Tuesday afternoon. And so let's have a look at what happens here when, the money supply goes up and stocks. You can see there's a very direct correlation here, almost. Now, you also kind of got to understand what's happened as well. So if you look over here, money supply has been rising, stocks have been steadily rising, and then we had the COVID crash. And then they printed like crazy, and then everything pumped. And then we went into QT, Bitcoin went down, stocks went down, and then everything's been going up again. And what's been frustrating here is, like really since probably October time, there's been some kind of disconnect. Stocks have continued to go up, money supplies continue to go up, but Bitcoin's dropped off. Now I want to overlay gold as well, because it'll be interesting to see what gold has done here. See, gold has kind of been steady this whole time, and then it started to go up, and then it's kind of held steady. Like it has its moments, and this chart doesn't go back too far, so I can't really draw any real conclusions from it, except that there is a disconnect between Bitcoin or crypto rather, and the rest of the market. And so if I'm analyzing this as a professional, why is that the case? And I'd probably say what I've always said, it's liquidity. Liquidity has been going up, but it's been gold and stocks that have been going up the most. And it's good to understand market caps as well, because you've got the Bitcoin market cap, you've got the amount of money in stocks, you've got the amount of money in gold. They're all different sized markets, and it takes a different amount of money to move different sized markets. And a quick example would be if you've got, just say for example, I mean this is a super basic example, you've got a coin and it's 100, just say 1 million $1 million market cap and one coin is $1. For that to double in price, you just need to really, if the supply, I mean, this is very basic stuff, it can get a lot more complicated, but I'm just assuming the supply side is fixed. And so the market cap all of a sudden doubles. So now you've got 2 million. And because the market cap doubles, the price doubles to 2. Now that was only $1 million. So to double the price of gold, where the market cap is in the trillions, a lot of money has had to go in there, into that market. And so that's the only explanation I can really see. This money that's coming in, the money's mainly going into stocks and it's going into gold. It's not really going into crypto. And it is a liquidity issue. That's like, if there was more money, then more money would probably go into crypto and obviously gold and stocks as well. It is disproportionate. Like, I do advise people, depending on their risk appetite, it's probably not a good idea to go all in crypto unless you really understand. It's probably safer to have a small allocation. And that's a reflection here. Like, people might be allocating only 5% into Bitcoin, 50% into gold, for example, 30% into stocks. And that's a reflection there. And so, yeah, the conclusion I can draw is that people, it's not that the market's bad, it's just that people are choosing safer assets right now, and there's not as much money to go around. I hope that makes sense. I didn't really plan it, I just felt like talking about it. But here's a chart the scary chart. Now, this is a chart that I put together at the end of last year. I'm just going to delete these now. I don't really need them anymore. Now, this is my Bitcoin cycle tracking chart. I haven't really given it a name, but it goes through. Let me put the halvings up. It tracks the Bitcoin halvings, basically the cycles in between, because that is a thing. The 4-year cycle thing, if you measure it, it never really was a thing. It was there or thereabouts. But there's definitely cycles. You have the bull cycle, bear cycle, and I like to call it the accumulation phase, and then the transition phase. And so that happened in that period here, 2013 to 2016, and then 2017 to 2020, you had the same kind of thing. And then 2020 to, say, 2024, you had a similar kind of thing as well, just in between the halvings. And so we've definitely been in some kind of bull run, because the price has gone up. In this period, the price doubled. But the question is, are we still in the bull phase, or are we in the bear phase? And I really am clutching at straws here. Like, I could be cheeky and move this black box. I drew this black box a couple of weeks ago, and I said, look, this is just noise in between here. So until Bitcoin breaks out of here either way, then we don't know. And I'm going to be cheeky, and I'm going to bring this down, because maybe it's me, false hope, I don't know. But until Bitcoin really, if it breaks down south of this black box, then we're in the bear market, and we've been in the bear market since October. But if it does suddenly break out, and there's a very strong chance that it will, because it's just, look at the economy, guys. The economy's good, and things are ramping up this year. And if we do have a crash, and it's very possible, and you could say, look, we already have had a crash. We could crash a bit further, but I really do think it's just going to be short-lived. Just like we've had crashes over here and we pumped out of it. Like, I've got to draw a line in the sand. And my line in the sand is this 80K level. If it breaks this 80K level and stays below this level, then I've got to say, yeah, we've been in the bear market all this time. But that's okay, because I don't believe in the whole 4-year cycle thing. Not anymore anyway. And so if this plays out, we've been in the bear phase, then yeah, it could just last a few months. We're definitely going to be, just waiting to bottom out. And I think we'll bottom out quick. And then we'll get back into the accumulation phase, and then the transition phase. And that, it will be a very interesting year for Bitcoin. It always is. And I keep saying it, no one knows what's going to happen. If someone tells you they know what's going to happen with Bitcoin, they're lying. And even if they do get it right from time to time, for every 100 calls they make, they probably make 80 of them wrong. And that's a good trader. And that's just normal. And so I want to, just manage expectations and hope people don't, misunderstand what I'm saying. Like Bitcoin, if you understand the mathematics behind it, it will only go up because it really is just mathematics. Like Bitcoin is an asset in demand. It has a fixed supply. Over time, that demand just keeps on going up. And as they print more money, the demand's going to keep going up even more. And so just from a mathematical point of view, it is a numbers go up game. But you've got to take the rough with the smooth. Right now, rates, I believe they paused rates, so I guess that had some kind of impact on the short-term market. But yeah, until this really starts to go up, then we're not going to get that, especially with alts, we're not going to get that bull run that we want, that we've all been accustomed to. And what I want to do now is I just want to just go over some charts and just really give my thoughts on how low things can potentially go and what would need to happen for it to go low. So this is my chart where I track the stablecoin dominance. I'm going to delete these lines and just zoom out a bit. So this is a range of resistance over here. And I always say, look, it is a range. There's no exact line. But I'm just going to leave that there. Because what I'm basically looking for from, a trading point of view, you're looking for as many touch points as possible to your trend line. And you can see there's a touch point here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so that's a decent one. I mean, if I move that line to say here, then that's a little bit less. Still not too bad. If I put it here, then I've only got 5. And so that's why it is a kind of range. But the more touch points it has, the stronger it is. Because you could even say, this is a good level of support as well, or resistance. And the reason why I track this is because this is stablecoin dominance. And it simply is people selling their Bitcoin for stablecoins. And as this goes up, Bitcoin price goes down. As this goes down, Bitcoin price goes up. And so it's definitely an important chart to keep an eye on. But, I'm kind of, and again, I know I'm clutching at straws, but there definitely is some kind of channel here. And if you look at the Bitcoin one, this has gone down, it's retested. It would be amazing if it did something like that. That would be really cool. But, this is where you got to be, like, no one knows the short-term timing. And it probably will do something like that. Because it could go down like this, Bitcoin will go up, and this will go up again. So we might have some kind of movement like that. So it's definitely a chart to keep an eye on. And it has broken. Oh, sorry about that, I pressed the wrong button. And I should probably redraw these old trend lines because they're not really as valid anymore. Let me move them along. I'm just basically trying to catch the bottoms. So I would say that's a decent point there. We don't need to go back to the beginning. Yeah, we could do, I suppose. Yeah, let's go from there. So, like, from a trading standpoint, this is where people will probably be going short on Bitcoin. All right, let's bring up that cleaner Bitcoin chart. Yeah, that's a pretty nasty red candle. This is on the daily. But in Bitcoin, it's kind of normal, right? Like if we zoom back out and look at, when the price is around about 70K, we had similar kind of moves as well. But this is a bit different because these were falling channels, not rising channels. Like a falling channel is bullish because the price goes up, falls, and then it breaks out. And this is the opposite. Price fell down, price goes up, then it falls down. But these patterns, these systems that we have, they're not always 100% right. And I remember over here, April last year, a lot of respected traders I knew, they were like, oh, this is, Bitcoin's getting down to 50, 60K. This is, it's game over from here. And then it just reversed overnight. And, a lot of people got caught out. But, they're the same traders that called the top over, well, they didn't call the top to the day, but they said, look, it's probably going to break down from here. And they were right. And even over here, they were saying, look, sell here. And so it's just an example of people, they can get it right, but most of the time they're going to get it wrong. And that's just the reality. So, right, let's draw some lines. How, like, if it continues to fall, how low is it going to go? That would be my main support level. And I could probably draw, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there. So this will be, if we do have another drop, yeah, it could definitely fall lower than this, but yeah, I don't want it to. No one wants it to, but this is a good place for it to rebound from. But we could have support right here. Like if we look, this is a nice level from before. It's quite a few touch points. It could just reverse from here. And there's no reason why it couldn't, really, because the economy's looking good. And, this is where I will say, no one knows. This is just us really making educated guesses. And eventually, people like me will be right. I did call it over here to say, look, it's probably time to sell now. And I was right. Over here, while we broke this resistance level, actually, it wasn't that one. Over here, when we broke this resistance level, that's when I started to get a bit excited. And yeah, unfortunately, it didn't hold. But that's the game, right? That's the game that we play. And so, yeah, is it going to go up and down? No one knows. I can guarantee it's going to go up at some point, and I'll definitely be right. I just don't know when though. And so I made a video the other day where I talked about what to be holding in this kind of situation. If you are in crypto, you really want to be in something relatively safe like Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, there's no guarantees, but it's almost guaranteed to bounce back. Ethereum, yeah, probably. But, how high can this thing go? I don't know, unless we get some real serious money printing, it's difficult to say. If we look at a lot of the alts, are they going to continue to go up? A lot of them have just been getting sideways. ADA, for example, probably will, because this is not a bad chart. And if I zoom out, I'll quickly explain what these little arrows mean. When you look at a chart, what you really want to see is, all right, is this chart, what is the trend? Is it getting up? Is it getting down? Or is it just chopping sideways? And that chart that we just looked at, Aave, you could argue that that's kind of just going sideways. There's no real direction here. It's just going to the right. And yeah, it's had some pumps and dumps along the way. ADA, on the other hand, if you look at that, that is trending upwards. So this is one of those coins where I'd say it's not a bad coin. If you are going to be holding something, this is less riskier. Whereas something like this one, you can see the direction. It's just down. Like, this is one of the worst coins to hold in a time like this. Atom as well, downtrend. There aren't many alts. Like, look at this. This is just terrible. There aren't many alts where I would say, look, this would be a relatively safe one to hold during this uncertain time. Like, yeah, Ethereum Classic, you could probably say yes, but it really hasn't really performed this season. And then, yeah, there aren't many. I mean, the only one that I would like, Tau's a good one, I would say, only because there's a lot behind this coin. And so I'd be confident enough to say, look, if you hold this for a few years, it will bounce back. But I can't say that with a lot of the others. Sui probably will, because this is this is VC backed, and there's a lot of potential upside here. So yeah, I'd probably say this one. Virtuals probably as well. But yeah, there's not many. I mean, yeah, this has been a stable coin. I don't really understand the economics of this one, but it's kind of been, what's the word here? Unaffected by everything that's going on. BNB is definitely another one, which is pretty much guaranteed to continue to do well. And so, yeah, like, just be really careful. I mean, if you're holding Bitcoin, even if it crashes down to 30K, it won't. I doubt it anyway. It will bounce back again. And so I think we're going to leave it there. I mean, if anyone is live, you can ask me to check out any charts, and I'm happy to look at them. But yeah, it is uncertain times. I'm not worried, because for me, yeah, although Bitcoin's not going along with the rest of the market, it's still not too bad. Like, we're still at 82K, and yeah, it will recover at some point. And if I just keep saying it every day, eventually I'm going to be right. And again, if you understand the mathematics involved, how Bitcoin actually works, then it will work out. But for now, yeah, I would say if you haven't sold, it's best to just continue to hold right now. And yeah, the markets will recover. I've been saying for a while now, we just need to give it time. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in my next video update. Thanks.